Hello. Thank you for tuning in to my official YouTube channel, Reverend MeeLing. I'm Reverend MeeLing. I've been known by several names. That includes Reverend MeeLing, Reverend Susan MeeLing, Lady MeeLing, Lady Dori, Belle, and quite a few other names. So, I'm going to go on in reference to, let me turn the page back in reference to the aspects of being outed in regards to the pages of Finding the Silver Lining, the short book version. Not the full details, of course. That's why there's Finding a Silver Lining as well as Finding the Silver Lining by Susan MeeLing. So expanding upon the aspects of out to Denmark and all that stuff. I'd been outed to my biological parents, even though they already knew about my lifestyle. They also knew that I was dealing with what I was dealing with. Even though they had supposedly moved to the state of Texas to actually help me with my son and my daughter, obviously their actions proved otherwise. And at that time, while also dealing with other aspects of those who I considered as, friends, and while I have heard recently, or at least read recently, if you want a friend, get a dog, well then that's just atrocious, in my opinion. Because if you only look at friendship in that regard as a pet animal, where is your humanity? Is my question. You can answer that for yourselves. That being said, in reference of being outed to my biological parents, that occurred because my ex, Patrick Kennedy, essentially was bitter because I had ended the relationship after he had pointed a loaded shotgun in my face, which I removed and found out, it was loaded. And he had known what was going on in reference to the situation, in reference to my daughter, because of McCoy Elementary School of Carrollton, Farmers Branch Independent School District of Carrollton, Texas. After the field trip, as did quite a few other people, know about that, and instead of getting the help that I needed at the time to assist my son and my daughter in other aspects, I wound up dealing with being told that others thought I was lying and wouldn't believe me unless I put documents out. So I did, and then I didn't have anybody that, wanted to acknowledge that. And since those documents that I put out in Finding a Silver Lining by me, Susan MeeLing, with the compilation of my writings and other stuff, I legally had the right to do it because it was paperwork that was given to me in reference to the case, in reference to my daughter, and the school district's lawyers had refused to get me the documents as many times as I had made requests up until 2011, and because of the law firm individual that I was dealing with at the time, Nona Matthews, from June of 2010 up until the middle of 2011, I had made requests at least twice a week, if not 3 times a week, and throughout the months. And it was not until essentially June or July of 2011 that I was informed that I could get the documents, despite as many attempts to get the documents as I had, that I actually had legal rights to in comparison to the individuals that I knew at the time. And the judge from the Texas Education Agency had ordered the law firm to finally produce the paperwork to give to me. However, because of the situation of doing everything I could to not be in the school district of Carrollton Farmers Branch Independent School District, no matter what I did to look online, in that regard, the apartment wound up being in that district, despite it being in Irving. Irony in other regards of karma. And so, that being said, I had to have my then boyfriend, now ex-boyfriend, Patrick Kennedy, go and pick up the documents, the box of paperwork, because, the law firm felt intimidated because of the way I look, because of my tattoos, because of my hair, all that sort of stuff, their own particular issues, not mine. That being said, obviously I have my hair and my tattoos. I don't have issues with my hair and my tattoos. However, they had issues, specifically Nona Matthews, according to what she had said in person. And so, despite all that, my now ex-boyfriend called my biological parents, left a message on their answering machine, ran out the tape, in which I got a phone call from my biological mother demanding that I showed up to her house. She called me by my first name, my middle name, my maiden last name, and my legal last name. And realistically, that was the first time my biological mother used my maiden last name since before I joined the United States of America's Armed Forces Army Branch. Because I was told before that she didn't want me known by my maiden last name. That being said, I went over to the house. I was interrogated. They moved all of the furniture out of the living room, dining room area, with the exception of one chair and one lamp. And I was accused of being a slut, a whore, a floozy, a home wrecker, and all sorts of other stuff. And as my mother biologically yelled at me in my face and demanded to have answers and told me about the message left by Patrick Kennedy about all these things that he was claiming that I did that I didn't do. Again, I had been accused of outing people in 2011, in like April or May of 2011. I was dealing with quite a few things that I didn't have time or have patience or any need to do any of that stuff. However, I didn't get to defend myself in that regard. Nonetheless, I, explained no, I didn't do that. I have this aspect where I believe in, respect and all that stuff. Nonetheless, my biological parents were informed of me being involved in the BDSM lifestyle, swinger lifestyle, LGBTQP, all that stuff. Not that they didn't know, once again. They did meet the female that I had dated, so they knew I was in the LGBTQP lifestyle, not forgetting what happened at Lackland Air Force Base in regards to my biological mother and being upset at, the aspects of my pansexuality. So it's not like that wasn't known. However, and that was back in 2005, so there's that. However, not that it wasn't known. However, they were living in denial where I just accepted I am as I am. And then afterwards, my biological father took over because my biological mother was tired of yelling at me. So then he got in my face and he goes, I have one question and one question for you only. Okay, what's that? He goes, I'm going to tell you this. Okay, go ahead. And those who have met my biological father, you know what he looks like. About 6'3", about 250 pounds, 230, 250 pounds. First generation Chinese male. He goes from this to, I've been to Denmark. Oh, okay, that's cool. Whatever, what does that mean? I've been to the red light district. Oh, okay. I don't understand what that means, but go ahead. And so I just got one question, and one question for you only. My question and my thoughts was, are you my biological father? What happened? When did you know how to? However, I didn't say that out loud. And my thoughts was, ooh. And I really wanted to have the ability to be a fly on the wall to see every single angle of that, because it was like I had never seen him move like that. I was like, ooh, okay, oh, okay. Go ahead. I didn't giggle at that time, obviously. Do you get beat or do you do the beating? Which one do you do? Do you get beat or do you do the beating? Oh, I do the beating. Yeah, I do that. That's all I need to know. And then Anna got mad at him. They started yelling, and I out the door. Nope, you guys wanna? I'm gone. No, you knew, and no, you knew, you knew, and so gone. So there's that particular aspect. I told quite a few people about that. There was this one event I had gone to in San Marcos. And there were some people that I had known and would get to see every now and then. I told them about it. And they were just like, your dad did what? Yeah, he did this. So picture a 6'3" first generation Chinese male who was born in, and just, and everyone was just like, oh, damn, Lady Dori Belle. Yeah, it sucked. I don't recommend being outed. Not like that, because I don't recommend being interrogated. Unfortunately, that wasn't the first time I was interrogated, so, that is what it is. And a few individuals, what do you mean that's not the first time you were interrogated? Well, you know how I told you that I have a dead ex-husband? Yeah. You know how I've said that I didn't see him for 2 days prior to him being found DOA? Yeah. Oh, yep. I didn't have to go any further than that. It was understood, unlike some individuals. So going on into that's nice. My biological mother, I learned that she had a different meaning for that's nice. And so I found this fantastic chandelier on eBay. I found out through the thing that they lived in Austin. It's like, hey, if I win the auction, is it okay if I come pick it up and save on the shipping? And realistically, the gas cost more than the shipping. Realistically. However, because of the amount of glass pieces, it was like, that way I don't have to worry about that, because you get one broken piece in a chandelier. Ugh, please. And so, the individual said, yeah, that's no problem. Da-da-da. Mike, my biological father, came with me. We went down to Austin, printed out the directions from MapQuest, went and stuff like that, and got lost because of the construction that was going on at the time. Made our way there and stuff like that. Get there and speak with the husband and wife for hours. I mean, it was genuine discussion. Had a good time. It was a lot of fun speaking with them. They asked me a bunch of questions and stuff like that. Asked them a bunch of questions. We talked. They found out about my head injury on Palm Sunday in 2000 and the after effects and stuff like that. A bunch of people in the neighborhood just kind of stopped when we were talking about that. I was like, oh, okay, hi. Hello. And so then they had said they had a second one that was smaller, and so got a deal on that. And I was like, well, I can make you a ceiling medallion the same way I already painted the one that's going to go in the dining room area for that. And I can paint it where it, matches, the furniture stuff in your house. And he's like, oh, okay, that's cool. Well, Anna had seen the picture of the chandelier. She's like, oh, that's really nice. That's really nice looking. Da 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 da. I mean, and she actually sounded genuine, which, excuse me for thinking that, somebody would tell me the truth. Nonetheless, get back to San Antonio. Mike is putting up the ceiling medallion as well as the chandelier. He's excited about the the other one because I had picked up a smaller medallion so that way I could paint that. And because their ceilings being a little bit lower, so I was one of those, okay, no problem, make it happen. That sort of stuff. I was working on the painting aspect while he was putting up the one in there. And so then Anna shows up to my house and she goes, oh, how'd the trip to Austin go? Oh, went well, da 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 da. And she looks and she's like, what is that? And I'm like, oh, it's the, and here's this. And she goes, what is that? It's a smaller version that will fit in your house, that will be compact in comparison. You can change out that brass fixture and this, that, the other. I mean, I said it was nice for your house. Mike just stopped at that point and he was like, are you fucking kidding me? He's like, it's actually, like, he had to defend how good it actually looked. And it was like, ugh, why are you still married to her? Like, just why? In my thoughts, I didn't say that out loud because those who have met my biological mother knows that, like that, she would have started crying. And then there are those at Lackland Air Force Base who understand why. With headaches and migraines, I didn't need that. So, nonetheless, I had, I got a good deal, and it looks good, and it'll fit in the house, and you can, like, you can change the leaves color if you want instead of the frosted silver. I mean, realistically, like, there's a lot of stuff that you could actually do instead of, but now, I don't like this, I don't like that, I meant it was nice for your house. Here I did something nice, excuse me, I mean, and actually nice, and, that sort of stuff. And so going on to the next aspect, which Grandpa Nichols had this particular sign on his door, which, that's awesome sign. It said, this is not Burger King. You do not get it your way. You do not get it right away. You either get it my way or you don't get a damn thing. And I looked at that sign, I looked at Grandpa Nichols, and I was like, hey, we're here on that. Because you're either going to do it my way, or you're not going to get a damn thing. And so, that is what it is in that regard, because, I am how I am. And, big proponent of etiquette. And so, just saying in that regard. And so, in such, I have given, like, multiple discussions in various ways. I have written up various things before the books in regards to, all you have to do is this, and this. Like, if you can't do that and you have to be honest, then, I understand certain aspects of certain things, but lying straight to my face, or even no, I don't, You either, if you truthfully want to be with me, it is not that bad in that regard. But if you truthfully are interested in me, you truthfully want to have a relationship with me, then you're going to want to be all in. I'm not going to half-ass anything. I don't half-ass things. So either it's that or, okay, well, it's not like I haven't been on my own a while. It's not like I literally had to raise myself in various ways. So, like, I actually shocked some people because I had explained, you don't understand. I prefer certain things. However, I'm not willing to settle in certain regards. So in reference of relationships and stuff like that, I prefer certain aspects. And if those things aren't met, well, I've been single before. Either you want to be with me or you don't. And if you want to be with me, I'm not going to make you change who you are, but understand, like, I am the way I am, and I don't do things the normal, whatever way, at least as I was told it wasn't normal, And in Austin, I actually got berated because I had etiquette that I had written up and stuff like that under my original FetLife aspect and explained that. And I had some people who contacted me and they were like, this is like really amazing how you wrote that up, like. And then there were a bunch of people, ugh, I don't have, well, if you don't, then obviously you don't want to have anything to do with me. I mean, if you are into the lifestyle and you are into certain things, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. However, it doesn't mean you still can't be friendly. And if you choose to prefer to be in that, then that's your choice. I don't have patience for that. And in this life, in this day and age, realistically, it is called an adult lifestyle for a reason. Act your age, not your shoe size. Especially since shoe sizes only go up into the teens. Just saying. Just throwing that out there. And so I had a bunch of people who didn't really like that. And it was one of those, well, that's a you problem. I mean, I know that's technically a me problem because you're making it my problem, but I prefer it to be only like your problem and not my problem because, I haven't had the luxury that a lot of individuals have had over the years. As one of those, oh, your mommy and daddy buy you everything and you don't have to pay any bills whatsoever? What's that like? Oh, your mommy and daddy bought you a brand new car. You don't have to make any payments. You don't have to pay for the insurance. What's that like? Oh, you don't have to do this, and this. What is that like? And I'm not being sarcastic any of the times that I've asked that or said that. I was being genuine because it's one of those, oh, what's that like? Because the first car that I bought, which I didn't have a choice to buy, was the 86 Dodge Grand Caravan beige with wood paneling. That had over 250,000 miles on it. And then I had to replace the gasket 3 different times, as well as pay for my own insurance. And then the car that I bought after that, which was a 93 Honda Civic, 2-door, 5 to the floor, white, had 90,000, 93,000 miles on it. Got it from the dealership that I was working at. And then I didn't even get to keep the car because, I joined the Army and how dare I, And so, and plus which the title wasn't put into my name because of the laws in Illinois at the time. And so, I paid for it though. Paid for it in cash. And the irony in reference to the check that I gave my biological mother in reference for the HVAC system, I don't know if she declared that on her taxes, but that is what it is. And she actually made fun of me. The first time I paid my taxes, she made fun of me because I had been working at IHOP for a while and I had reported, the tips that I made in cash, as well as the ones on the credit card that I had, received. And Anna, my biological mother, when it came time to doing the taxes, she looked at me and she said, you owe the IRS, I think it was like $45.01 or 16 cents or something like that. And I was like, okay. And so I, set in the money. My biological mother looked at me and she goes, ha ha, you have to pay taxes. And I looked at her and I was like, everybody has to pay taxes. I made the money that I did when I was a waitress. So, pay my taxes. And she looked at me, she's like, ugh, you're so dumb for being willing to pay your taxes. I don't think you understand what those taxes go for. At all. And I hadn't gotten to the point of being able to fight for my emancipation to join the Army for the United States of America's Armed Forces yet. And she made fun of me and it's like, you don't understand. those are necessary, especially right now. Like, I don't think you get that. And not that I believe that, like, the over taxation. No, you don't need the over taxation. You just have a budget and make sure stuff is squared away. However, the aspects of taxes, to assist with certain things, especially with the aspects of my nightmare just getting stronger and stronger at that time. It's like I had little bits and pieces of the dream that would come forward here and there, but the closer it got in reference to the time, it was very rare that I was able to have the dream portion. I was being in that aspect, it was more and more of the nightmare, and it's like, this is not okay. And then, just before I'd wake up, there was the dream. And I was like, then I'd just sit in my room, just, what is this? Why is the dream always so short? I wake up right at the dream, get to see this little section, and that's it. Like, why? And I get at this point, it's one of those, well, that's hypothetically where, that aspect is over and then new life begins, I guess, in a metaphorical sort of way. Just one of those, this nightmare is just so much. And the amount of stress and weight on my shoulders, it is what it is. And so my biological mother just made fun of me. And it's like, well, that's nothing new. You make fun of me every day. So it's better than you beating me with, the wooden spoons and stuff. And then, because I opened my mouth. And then, that happened that way. So then going into the absent-minded professor in regards to certain aspects, specifically with the coven of which I had to deal with in regards to the Jade Wolf coven. He thought that I would be impressed that he had broken into my altar cabinet for my meditation tools. And then somehow that would make me go back to him. And it's like, nope, you just did remember I told you, don't go into that area, don't touch that stuff, don't do that. Why? Yeah. Well, that is for a reason. Well, you made me want to do it because, you were getting involved with this and I knew you didn't want to be with me. So I thought that I'd do this and make you want to. Yeah, and had that work out. Oh, no, it didn't work out. That's the answer to that rhetorical question. However, he did essentially get informed that he made a pact. And I explained that sort of aspect of, there is a metaphor. Have you ever heard of Pandora's box? Once you open Pandora's box, that is the end of that. You don't get to put everything back in once you open Pandora's box. Not only did you open that, then you went and go do the ritual stuff and you were told not to. You were warned. And I told the females in the Jade Wolf Coven about that, and Christine in particular was like, oh, that's so awesome. And it's like, no, it's not. Because there is a portion of the nightmare that I had been having right there. And so, stupid. And so Christine was like, oh, well, it's so awesome. He got into No, he didn't get into spirituality. He did something stupid. Oh, he's like, to her, he was a hero to her. You dumb bitch. Like, you don't know what you're saying. And so then Christine, oh, well, far left Democrat, liberal this, liberal that. And claiming to be against, like, abuse. And yet going and telling my now dead ex-husband what I was dealing with, as far as like outside of that. And I was in my own apartment by that time, and oh, no, 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 went and tattletaled on me completely. And I was one of those, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Really? The irony of that outing aspect. And so, he claimed that he was better than me in so many ways. You read all these spiritual books, but it's not like you're going to get a degree. Ugh, you sound like Anna a lot. And I'm just brushing up on stuff that I had already studied before my head injury on Palm Sunday in 2000. So, yeah. Well, you're not going to get a degree out of it. In this particular aspect, I don't actually need a degree with what I can do. I just need the words. That's it. And so Christine of the Jade Wolf Coven would continuously speak with my now dead ex-husband. And as she claimed to be a Satanist and all that sort of stuff, it's one of those, that is a you choice, not a me choice, obviously. And, her definition of Satanism was absolutely wrong. And I was just one of those, no, you truthfully don't understand that at all. If you actually understood that, you would know. And so her claim was that Lucifer was her patron. And I said, well, Lucifer wouldn't have anything to do with you. Like, he wouldn't touch you with a 10-foot pole. And she was offended when I said that to her. And I was like, I'm telling you, Lucifer, Lucifer was, a fallen angel. And the aspects that you don't seem to understand is that it is a metaphor in reference to certain aspects in regards of being sent to Earth to show certain things, and you either choose to make the correct choice and do and be better, otherwise you deal with the ramifications of those choices. And if you prefer to worship only the negativity, then you are not learning at all, because Lucifer is called that because of being the light bringer, bringing the illumination to the mind for genuine knowledge, understanding, and comprehension. And so for you to claim that you want that, no, that is not what Lucifer taught. And then she tried to say, as far as Christine, she tried saying that she was a Satanist because she put herself before her children. And I said, that is not what Satanism is about. That is not what Satanism is about. And she said, well, you haven't studied Anton LaVey's works. And I said, I don't have to study Anton LaVey's works. I can tell you right now that what was taught is essentially that you take care of, yes, yourself, but part of yourself is making sure that your family is taken care of properly. And you do what you need to do to survive. But at the exact same time of making sure that you yourself are comfortable while taking care of your family. To go and claim that you know anything, you know nothing. And Christine tried to say that she was a master. I was like, you don't even know what that is. I would guesstimate if there's actually something involving the specific aspects of making that a church sort of thing, that they would laugh at you in your face. Because realistically, you don't know anything about that at all. And Christine said, oh, you're so arrogant. No, I'm telling you. You don't know what you're talking about. An actual Satanist who worships, by your definition, Lucifer. By the way, it's not Lucifer. Get it right. It's Lucifer Morningstar. So don't make the mistake because that would be an insult to him. No, Lucifer is my patron. Lucifer is not your patron at all. And then she said, well, Caradwyn is her matron. And I said, well, that describes you perfectly if you really think about it. And she asked me why. And I looked at Christine and I said, because Caradwyn eats her own because of jealousy, and then is damned to eternity for knowing that instead of doing what was right, Caradwyn has to deal with that for the rest of her existence. And in the end of Caradwyn's existence, she's just a bitter old hag who has nothing to offer at all and is a waste. That's why Caradwyn has been written the way she has, because that is her particular aspect. Yes, at one point in time she was quite, but when she made the choice to take care of everything but what was important, that was the moment that her existence went downhill. So if you prefer to have her as your matron, well, you might want to rethink that. And then Christine had brought up her writing of a motherfucker of a curse. And I looked at her and I said, and your matron is who? And she said, Caradwyn. What did I just explain? What's the big deal? Well, that'll sink in at some point. However, you are already on your downward path. So you might want to relook at things. And then she had said to me, well, who is your matron? Who is your patron? And I said, I have quite a few. I have quite a few matrons and quite a few patrons. And only a few that you are allowed to know about. One is Kuan Yin. And she said, who's that? And I explained Kuan Yin's story in that regard. I said, and then another one that you are allowed to know is Kali Ma. And she's like, Kali Ma, she's like such a dark, evil, no. Kali Ma, you see, both Kuan Yin and Kali Ma get a very bad rap. Kuan Yin is considered as being weak because of her compassion, and yet that was her strength in a multitude of ways. She was able to not only heal after and during overcoming what she was put through wrongly for her spirituality. However, she was giving in various ways to make sure that the world didn't have to suffer like that anymore. And so while she had the ability to very much attain Buddha status, she became a Buddhavista, which is the equivalent in certain references of fairies and stuff like that. And in reference to Kuan Yin in that regard, she did all sorts of healing aspects in making sure the safety of the human race to continue on in a more positive manner while doing as necessary. Now, Kali Ma also gets a bad rap. And Christine looked at me and she goes, like what? And I said, well, you think that she's evil, right? Yeah, because she has black skin. I said, that's wrong. Just because Kali Ma has black skin does not make her an evil entity. That's not it at all. You're actually seeing the problem. You are a part of the problem, Christine, in that regard. How so? Because Kali Ma's skin is black because of the combination of every color possible to the human eye in one particular being. And she is actually just as compassionate as Kuan Yin. The difference is when it comes to enemies in reference to Kuan Yin reverts to prayer and the aspects of her inner strength and self-control Whereas Kali Ma has that as well, but once you push her to a certain point, see, Kuan Yin is the equivalent of the maiden aspect. Kali Ma is the equivalent of the mother and the crone aspect, because Kali Ma, essentially, you go after who she considers to be one of hers and she will destroy you. And she has so many possibilities and ways to absolutely obliterate you from the face of the earth that, that she gets that bad rap in that regard, but it's actually completely out of protection and making sure hers are taken care of properly. The crone aspect in regards to the wisdom, and that is all that is in that regard. She has the wisdom because of the understanding and the knowledge that she has watched in various ways, and that divinity that she has attained. It is misinterpreted because it is looked at as she is bloodthirsty, whereas she is in regards to justice, and it is justified. However, once that justice is achieved, the reason why it is such a battle in that regard is because of her one in that reference point has not satiated in other ways and going to revert back to that maiden mother crone imbalance sort of way. Christine looked at me and she said, "You have no idea what you're talking about." I looked at her and said, "You are so far gone, you couldn't even understand the slightest of the words I just explained to you. It is quite simple. It realistically is." And so, in that regard of discussing the aspects of that, then her, meaning Christine, going back in reference to Caradwin and all that stuff, and then her being, in the appreciative aspect of not only my now dead ex-husband, then first time separation, but nonetheless final over all that. She thought that he was very similar to Lucifer or Satan. I said he was actually closer, at least now I can say that he's closer to the Satan aspect in comparison to Lucifer Morningstar. Because even Lucifer Morningstar has multiple facets of to who that was in that regard. And so in the reference of the absent-minded professor, he refused to acknowledge, and he would choose when he could and could not in regards to memory stuff. And it's like, why would you do that? I have issues with my memory stuff. So why would you purposefully do? Oh, because it makes it easier. No, it makes it more difficult, and nobody needs any more complications in this era. At all whatsoever. So, going on in reference of unable, my biological sister had refused to see the various aspects of morals and ethics. And then one of my other, specifically as far as so there's my biological sister who didn't want to acknowledge certain things. And then my ex-sister-in-law, Susie Marie Nichols Lopez, she was unable to understand the slightest of what I attempted to explain to her because she was getting involved in the lifestyle. And I said, you need to wear a condom at minimal. And she said, I don't have to. Okay, you need to make sure the males wear a condom, okay, if you want to go into that. And her thing was, oh, what's the worst that can happen? Well, you can get an STD, you can get pregnant. If you're going to do this, you should probably get a tubal ligation or whatever to make sure that you don't have to have that as an issue anymore. Because I guarantee you, while you are hiding that from Joe, your actual husband, and your baby daddies, or your baby daddy, or your children's, whatever, the three, he would not tolerate that. And especially if you got knocked up. And her response was, it's no big deal. No, you are unable to see the fact that I'm warning you. And besides, you got your plastic surgery done. Why wouldn't you want to protect that? And her response was, oh, I'll just have the guy pull out. Why would you say that? Do you think that pulling out is what saves you? No, no, no. There are protective measures in that regard. If you were to get a tubal ligation or a hysterectomy or whatever it is that gets done, or at minimal, take some birth control, seriously, that's all you got to do. And so she didn't want to listen in that regard, but she also didn't want to heed my warnings when it came to her children, her three children, Brianna Marie, Marissa Marie, and Joseph Anthony Lopez, in regard to their credit. She used their social security numbers. She told me that she had done so because of her declaring bankruptcy and not being able to get electric or anything in her name without paying a large deposit. And I had already told her she shouldn't have declared bankruptcy, especially with the way that she did it, because I thought it sounded illegal that she would go and charge up a bunch of credit cards to buy a bunch of material possessions that she couldn't afford and knew that she wasn't going to be able to afford it, to then go and, make the banks have to deal with that. And her response was, it didn't really matter. And I said, no, it did and does. And you're hurting your children. Your daughters have and have, an ability to be able to go forward in this life, and you are holding them back by doing that to them. What happens when they go to college and attempt to get a loan? What happens if they go to try to get into the military and they can't because you destroyed their credit? What happens if they do this or this or this, and because of what you did to their social security numbers, that you obliterated that? And her response was, it's not that big of a deal. They can have it cleared up. No, yes, they can. However, you're making unnecessary problems for your daughters instead of actually assisting them. So that way, when they get, of age, they can genuinely make choices for themselves instead of having to not only work off additional debt that you caused for them, but then, make it more difficult for them in their existence as it already is. You don't need to do that. And at one point in time, when discussing this with my ex-sister-in-law, Susie Marie Nichols Lopez, she asked me, well, what are you going to do when it comes to James and Lydia? Well, I'm going to keep their stuff clear. I'm not going to put them through that. I didn't even need to have that discussion with you to even know that. I would never do that to my son and my daughter. I would make sure that anything possible would be available to them, and if they wound up making mistakes, they'd learn from those mistakes. However, I would not cause any problems for them. And as a matter of fact, everything that I do to make sure to, as best as I possibly can, so that way they have the opportunities. And so I was made fun of for that. I was made fun of for that because, what type of person would do that for their child instead? And then one of her excuses she claimed was because I was and am medically retired from the Army. I said, I'm on a set income. I do the best that I can. And, it's not like I'm not trying to actually be able to have a job. It's stuff like that. It's just, this is the way it is when it comes to my headaches and migraines and all the other stuff. And so, just because you see one aspect, you need to pay attention to the rest. And you're only causing more problems to your children, and they don't need any additional problems. They already have you as their mother, Susie Marie Nichols Lopez. Just saying. And so, in that, I'm going to end on the puppy sword. In that regard, where my biological mother and biological father had found out that I am in the lifestyle because of that message from Patrick Kennedy. And afterwards, my biological father came over to my apartment in San Antonio, and he asked me, as Anna and Matt had left, are they a part of the lifestyle? They are who they are. They do as they do. It is what it is. And so Mike tried to get me to be grossed out, and it's like, don't, just don't. And he's like, well, does Anna swallow swords? And did that And I was like, I don't know what she does. I'm sure probably at some point in time she's done whatever she's done. It is what it is. And he's like, well, does she do this? And I don't know. I don't care. It's two consenting adults. I don't need to know. Stop it. And he keeps going and going and going. And I'm just like, if you really want to push that, I can respond, and I can tell you one thing that I know. And at that point, you're not going to want to like push that any further. And he's like, no, what about this? What about this? Does this gross you out? Does this gross you out? Da, da, da. And I said, it doesn't gross me out. It's kind of weird having this discussion at this point in time. There is no denying that. That's really what that is. And so, well, does she do this? Does he, and then something, and he said something about a strap on, and I was like, no, actually, Anna wears the strap on. And he kind of, wait, what? And I was like, yeah, no. Yeah, I actually have a few strap-ons. Since you want to go there and... Wait, what? And it's like, yeah, you wanted to go through this door. You wanted to go down that rabbit hole. So we're going to go down that rabbit hole. And I'm going to guarantee you, once we get to the... And he just, no, it did not, no. And then he tried, this and that. No. There's this, and this. No. And I was like, no. Just because he's in the Air Force doesn't mean that he doesn't like getting it up the ass. That's just what it is. Not all guys in the Air Force enjoy that. However, there are others who enjoy that as well. And he was like, no. He's in the Air Force. He's in the military. Like, military guys don't like that. Oh, please. No. Let me tell you. I know this one female. She has 2 Marine guys that she, the guys are into this. She puts the leashes and the collars around the Marine guys. They walk around on all fours and they enjoy the stuff that they do. Wait, what? Marine guys? No, Marine guys are, yeah, they're kind of kinky. There's a few Marines that are a little kinky in certain regards. Like, that just is how it is. And no, military guys, they're not kinky. Oh, please. Please. Yeah, they are. Yeah. There's a couple military guys that are into kinky stuff. No. Yes. And so, well, what about this with and he keeps trying and trying. And I'm like, okay, you know what? One thing that I know that she does is after she fucks him up the ass with the strap on, she gets him to come into a puppy bowl, and then she has him lick up the puppy bowl from his cum. And Mike looked at me and he goes, I don't want to talk anymore. I didn't know that was, that's stuff that happens, and that is mild. So, can we stop talking about that right now? Because this is kind of weird that I'm giving you a sex education talk, and you are my biological father. Like, I thought it was the other way around, where, like, the parents are supposed to explain, and, like, why am I giving the explanation? Like, I'm just saying, like, I don't want to be the one, like, I don't know why. And so, he lit up his pipe, and he lit up a cigarette, and I mean tobacco pipe, because he smoked tobacco in his pipe while smoking regular cigarettes. That's how I was raised, with pipe smoke, meaning in a tobacco pipe of actual tobacco, pipe tobacco, as well as cigarette smoke in the house in New Jersey. And the cigarettes were Pall Mall no filters and Lucky Strike no filters. Just saying. And I will close on the aspect of, for those who knew my biological father in a more specific sort of way in New York and New Jersey, you can understand this joke of, well, hypothetically, nicotine really does save lives. You guys have a good one. Make sure you comment, like, and share my official YouTube channel, and have a good one.